Dr. Hoehner, your reputation precedes you.
Oh, Craig.
But I'm here to talk to you specifically about Nebraska Schoolmasters Club. How long have you been a member of the Nebraska Schoolmasters Club?
Oh, I would say like 18 or 19 years. And I apologize for my voice. I'm hoarse. And so I'd say 18 or 19 years.
Dr. Hoehner, who nominated you to be in the club?
Jim Ocean.
Jim Ocean. I know this Jim Ocean. I've heard you speak. What a great guy.
He is.
I didn't know
pretty
that,
special.
Dr. Hoehner, but he nominated me to be in the club in 2002.
See, he has a knack for nominating really good people.
Oh, I guess I have to concur with you. What's the best thing about being a member of the Nebraska Schoolmasters Club?
Well, the very fact that I mark them down on my calendar and to make sure I attend. And you don't do that with a lot of meetings. But to me, the collaboration with longtime friends and meeting new people. But it's more than networking. It's really developing deep friendships because people come back after they've retired and they just want to be together. And then, of course, the programs are really good too. I've always enjoyed them.
Dr. Hoehner, you have been a mainstay in Nebraska education. You're kind of an icon.
You mean I'm older than dirt?
No, although I had some courses with you.
Yes, you did.
And it was a great experience. And my question to you is, what's the best thing about being an educator in Nebraska?
Well, we're kind of like a giant family. I keep coming back to that, don't I? But being, and there's a couple things. It is like you can have mentors who will help you along the way becoming an educator. And then you have the delight of being able, like you've spoken to my groups, is to be able to reach out to your former students and have them come in and speak. And that's one of the greatest rewards of being an educator in Nebraska.
You know, when you're seasoned like me,
you're a pup.
You tend to see things over time, and we live in a time of change. If you had to name one or two things that have changed the most in education, what would they be?
Well, on a personal level, it'd be gender. My undergraduate degree was in math, and I was the only female in my class. In fact, my instructor called me the thorn among the roses because it was all guys. He did. He thought he was funny. And then when I started in the ed program, I was the only female in my classes. And now they're probably half and half. So that would be the biggest change to me.
Wow, and I had no idea. And I wonder what he would say today. You know, how far you've made it.
Oh, we would turn him in
star pupil.
We would turn him in now for political incorrectness.
Dr. Hoehner, I like to ask this question because it tells me what people value. Can you name 3 heroes and tell me why you chose them?
That's really a hard question, because when I ask my students that question, you know, it often comes up Tom Osborne and all. And if I would think of heroes, I would think of people who probably impacted me in a very positive way. And I'd start with the earliest one, which would have been my father. He was from North Carolina, so he had a different take on the role of females. And as far back as I can remember, we would discuss U.S. News and World Report or whatever, and I mean like grade school. He put a tennis court in the yard on the farm so we would have access to sports. He taught me how to shoot. I got to go hunting. But most of all, when I decided I had a likeness for math, he was just over the moon and really pushed for it, where a lot of people at that time thought math is really not an area for women. And so, and I had a wonderful mother too, but my father just had a different take on the role of women. And then the second one would be my husband, Leroy. You're too young to remember, but when I graduated, women were really allowed to work because it reflected on their husbands that they couldn't support them. And can you see, you're looking at me, you can't really believe that, but that's the way it was. And so I happened to marry a man who not only supported me, but supported me to get a master's degree and a specialist degree. And I always thought of him as a safety net when I would want to do something different. I always had that kind of support. And then on third, I would think of, I don't know, I would go back to my, can I put 3 or 4 in this last group?
Sure.
Okay, I would go back as far as Marv Shreve, who was my first superintendent, and he remained my mentor. And when I was chair here, and that was just shortly before he died, when I was chair here, he was just so pleased, but he always kept contact. And then I would say Harold Bennett was the one who looked at me and said, McCook superintendent, you have a master's degree in administration, let's use it. And then he proceeded to load everything on me, which I learned from. And then, and there were more, but then when I came to Kearney, I was lost. And I remember Dr. Lynn Johnson went down the hall and took me to Scott Frederickson and said, help her publish. And Scott became my mentor on publishing and presenting and everything. And so there's just so many people that I would say, in a sense, were heroes because they really impacted my life.
Well,
I went far afield on that for you, didn't I?
no, that's great. There are a lot of people that impacted you. And the value of those relationships is key. How would your peers describe you?
Oh, maybe you should ask them.
Walks on water even when it's not frozen.
No, intense, maybe driven. There were times at McCook I had little dragons left on my desk, being dragon lady. But my philosophy was, if you really focus on what is best for kids, and that sounds trite, everything else falls in place.
Well, I was a student of yours, so
Yes, you were. A mighty fine one.
You're the mentor. I always thought you were an intellectual that really was very compassionate.
That's very sweet.
That's the way I would describe you.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, leave a legacy. What's your legacy going to be?
Well, I have a lot of students who remember me saying, walk the talk. And being fair. And I always used to say, if there's one thing, if you're ethical, everything else will fall into place, because you'll ensure that every student has a curriculum commensurate with their ability. You'll manage the money. You'll manage everything well. But to do that, it could just boil down to walk the talk. And now in my late years, I say treat every student as if they were your grandchild. Go the extra mile to just make it happen for them.
What a legacy, Dr. Hoehner.
Yeah.
Now, the last question I'm going to ask you today is, why should someone join the Nebraska Schoolmasters Club?
Well, first of all, they have to be invited.
That's right.
And so the first thing that you feel is that you're really becoming a part of an elite group of administrators in the state. But as I said earlier, when you have meetings that you look forward to, it says a lot about what the worth of the meeting is. And you meet the top people in the state, you become friends with them, you learn from them. I mean, every time you go to something, you come home with a new idea. And so I would say it's just been an honor to be in Schoolmasters.
Dr. Hoehner, thank you so much for your time today. I'm grateful.
Thank you, Greg.